Hey guys, Level Cap here, and welcome to This Week in Gaming, your weekly news recap on everything going on in the world of video games. This week, Delta Force finally got its campaign mode, for better or worse. A new Tony Hawk game is being teased, a massive update for Hades 2 launched, and much more. Delta Force's Black Hawk Down campaign has launched to, unfortunately, divided reviews. I played a bit this morning to get a first impression, and I agree that the campaign is a bit of a mixed bag. Many are praising its more grounded and tactical feel compared to the game's near-future military and extraction modes. But performance and balance issues are chief concerns. The overall design of the campaign is very tactical. You progress through the streets and buildings of Mogadishu surrounded by hostiles. Your enemies go down in a few well-placed shots, and you take very heavy damage for just taking a few hits. The gameplay is overall slow and methodical, but there are some weird design choices. The campaign was designed as a co-op experience with 4 players. You can play it solo or in co-op, but there's no AI teammates to fill up the empty slots if you play solo. You also don't regenerate health or have the ability to loot ammo. There's 4 classes to pick from for the playthrough that can resupply your health and ammo, but it's only one or the other per class. So players trying to make it through the campaign solo are finding it very challenging since it doesn't seem like it was actually designed to be played solo. Now, playing co-op, you can heal and resupply each other, but doing so locks players into a forced animation that the receiving player doesn't have to consent to, so they can start getting locked into animations and killed essentially because your teammate timed a resupply at the wrong moment. Enemies also seem to spawn in when players cross certain barriers or thresholds in levels, leading to a room looking cleared only for enemies to suddenly pour out of it when you get closer. The mission parameters also artificially inflate the difficulty. There are sections in the first mission where you have to secure civilians and then cover an AI squad of friendly soldiers. Any of the civilians dying immediately ends the missions, and the AI squad that you have to defend can only sustain a certain number of casualties before triggering failure. The amount is not told to you while you're playing the mission, and despite the enemy resistance appearing light, I still failed this mission in co-op. So on one hand, it's great to see a campaign that takes a much more tactical and realistic approach to its narrative. But on the other hand, the spawning enemies and other design choices almost run counter to the ethos of a tactical shooter. It'll be interesting to see how reviews of the full campaign shake out over time. Hopefully the devs are also working on some performance improvements. The campaign was done in Unreal Engine 5, whereas the multiplayer was done in Unreal Engine 4. The increased fidelity of the campaign is very impressive, but it comes at a hefty performance penalty compared to multiplayer. A new Tony Hawk Pro Skater Remaster is being teased in the latest update for Call of Duty Black Ops 6. The game's newest map, Grind, features a banner with the iconic logo and the date 3/4/25. This follows a tease by pro skater Tyshawn Jones, who said he was going to be a playable character in the next Tony Hawk Remaster on a podcast earlier this week. Tony Hawk himself confirmed that the franchise would continue in an Instagram post last year. The previous remasters that launched in 2020 by Vicarious Visions were a huge hit among fans and seems like they were a commercial success as well. But the studio's parent company Blizzard moved the developers into a support role for the Diablo 2 remaster. Since then, the future of Tony Hawk games has been in limbo, but this new teaser in Call of Duty with Tony Hawk himself responding to seems to all but confirm that the next game will be announced or released next month and will remaster the original 3rd and 4th games. In related Call of Duty news, the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cosmetic bundle is drawing criticism from players over its $90 price tag. Typically, crossover cosmetics like this are tied to an event or a battle pass in Warzone, but this time around you'll have to buy the $10 battle pass to unlock a Splinter skin, and then an additional $80 for the turtles themselves, as there's no way to unlock them via gameplay. Valve just handed the Team Fortress 2 community the keys to the castle. They have released the source code for Team Fortress 2's multiplayer and co-op modes and an updated SDK that gives modders essentially full access and license to make their own games with. The code was released with a non-commercial license, so anything modders make will have to be free to play. But within those rules, the sky is the limit in terms of how modders want to evolve Team Fortress 2. Valve are also updating their their other legacy multiplayer titles like Day of Defeat Source and Counter-Strike Source with 64-bit binary support, scalable UIs, and more that should help future-proof them. And while this news effectively means Valve is moving on from developing Team Fortress 2 content, it also puts the game's future in the hands of the community, and they've shown time and time again that they are incredibly capable and passionate. The second major update for early access title Hades 2 just dropped. It's called the Warsong update, and it adds Ares, the god of war, as a supporting character that brings new abilities to the game. The update also adds a new boss to finish one of the game's 2 main paths. Beyond the major stuff, there is a huge scroll of changes affecting pretty much every aspect of the game, including an expanded hub area, new artwork, and much more. Despite being one of the most popular games in the world, projected to earn $1 billion in its first year, some developers that have worked on Marvel Rivals were laid off this week. The affected team was led by former Battlefield developer Thaddeus Sasser. His team was based in Seattle and worked as a subsidiary of NetEase, the company that developed and published Rivals. It's now known that the team was 6 developers who worked on the game and level design alongside the game's main team, which was based in China. They had been working on the game for at least 2 years. And while these layoffs are relatively minor in size, it's still kinda odd considering the game's overwhelming success. If you help a company make an incredibly successful game like Marvel Rivals and then you get fired, whose jobs are even safe in this industry? NetEase has been going through some serious restructuring lately, cutting jobs across their subsidiaries and even shutting multiple studios entirely. And they're just one of many companies laying off developers despite having successful games on the market. In general, Sasser's team just seems like another casualty of the game industry's ongoing squeeze to reduce costs and bolster profits. The next-gen update for Grand Theft Auto V is finally coming to PC on March 4th. The update includes ray tracing, support for AMD and NVIDIA's various upscaling and frame generation tools, faster loading times, enhanced audio, and more. A similar update was released for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series editions of Grand Theft Auto V in 2022. On PC, these upgrades will unfortunately mean that GTA Online is being split across 2 ports. Players that can't run the next-gen update on their PCs will retain access to the original build of Grand Theft Auto Online, but players that can run the update will get their own version of the online sandbox experience to play. These 2 versions won't offer crossplay between each other. Dune Awakening finally has a release date. The survival MMO is launching on May 20th. Recent previews and playtests of the game have been generally positive, though there are complaints about forced PvP content and lack of meaningful endgame activities aside from just PvP. It'll launch on PC for $50 with consoles getting their versions of the game at a later unannounced date. Reviews and benchmark data for NVIDIA's 5070 Ti are live, and they paint a pretty grim picture. On paper, the GPU offers a decent uplift in performance of about 10 to 20% compared to a 4070 Ti. Naturally, the big issue is pricing. The 5070 Ti's MSRP is $750, and while that is cheaper than the launch price of the 4070 Ti and the 4070 Ti Super, it doesn't really matter that much if you can't afford what is an essentially the economy version of the new card. NVIDIA have not released their own version of the GPU, leaving it up to their board partners to offer it, and since the margins are so thin to begin with, it's looking like the average price is going to be closer to $800. Availability is also a big issue, with most models already out of stock just a day after launch. PUBG creator Brendan Greene just released his first game following the mega hit of, well, PUBG. The game is called Prologue Go Way Back. It's a massive open-world survival game currently in early access. It's one of 3 in-development projects at Greene's studio and is essentially a proof of concept for features and tools the team is expanding on. The terrain is procedurally generated with multiple biomes. Weather affects both your physical state and the terrain itself, with rain causing rivers to rise and mud that makes the ground slicker to walk on. It's a very simple experience, but it's interesting to see a developer with such a prestigious commercial success under his belt swinging for the fences on crazy tech like this. Their ultimate goal is a game that procedurally generates an entire unique planet that thousands of players can live on and survive. I wish him good luck with that crazy idea. And that wraps it up for today's episode of This Week in Gaming. If you guys enjoyed this show, don't forget to drop me a like, subscribe for more content like it. And if you want to see what else I've been up to this week, check out my video going over the most popular mod in Arma Reforger. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.